Now ramen, especially tonkotsu, a creamy, rich tonkotsu ramen is one of my favorite things to eat. It's amazing that I took so long to actually get onto ramen. Yeah, I've never been really much of a soup guy, but over the course of time, yeah, I've fallen in love with it, and especially a nice, creamy, thick tonkotsu ramen. So please guys, one big thing you're gonna notice, everyone's got different flavors, different likes. Now, I want to help you tweak it to the way that you like it. Now, I like mine rich. I like when I choose my favorite ramen from Ichiran in Japan, which is what this is trying to copy and replicate. I'll always tick the rich box, you know, and with extra garlic. So that's how I like to make it. But please, if you have any problems, if you hit any roadblocks, just don't be afraid to comment, and I will help every single one of you guys nail it to the best of my abilities. But yeah, really appreciate all the support, guys. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and please just let me know how I can help you, because I want you guys to nail it too. Now there's a couple of things to look for with ramen as well. If you like it a little bit more salty, just add a bit more taro. If you like it a bit thicker, just reduce the stock down a bit more. It's really quite easily tailorable to exactly how you like it. So if this recipe isn't exactly how you like it, please let me know. I can tell you how to tweak it. Just tell me, you like it a bit more salty, I can tell you to do this. You like it a bit thinner, thicker, this, that, the other. I can help you guys to achieve your goals and to be able to nail it too. Cool guys, thank you very much, and really appreciate the support and you watching. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. Cheers. I'm going to top this up just so it's covered with water. I usually cover it by about 5 centimeters to 2 inches, just to be sure. Alrighty, we're getting there. Alright, that should do for the moment. Perfect, and we'll go stick this on the stove. We'll pop this on the stove, on the biggest burner, and we'll get that boiling now. It'll help if you've got a lid here, it'll just speed things up a bit. Alrighty guys, you see that scum on top there? Now you want to get all that out, because that will discolour your broth. And just make sure you get as much of it as you can. And you might have to do that for around 20 minutes to get it right. Okay. You just boil this for 20 minutes just to get all the scum off. Okay guys, now here's for the chashu, preparation of the chashu. So what we're going to do is get a nice bit of pork belly there and some butcher's twine. Now I personally like the skin on. If you boil it for long enough, which you will, it should become relatively gelatinous. So it's not going to be hard like you could imagine skin would normally. Now when I actually gonna wrap this up. What I'm gonna do is just make sure that I've got the grain going the right way. So I want actually the grain to be going this way. And so when I cut into it, she'll be good. So what you want to sort of do a bit of a test run, you want to roll that up quite tight. Now what I'll do, that should work out nice and fine. Okay, now this is Berkshire pork as well. So this will actually have a bit of a flavor advantage over some other types of pork, make it a bit more porky. So what I'm going to do here, just tie a knot around it for starters. Now it's better if you can obviously get your butcher to do this for you. If you know your butcher well, or even if you don't, it shouldn't be too much drama. So what I do is generally I'll actually wrap that one twice so it doesn't slip, or it's not as likely to slip because of the extra friction. And I'm going to tie that up. Now always start with more twine than what you think, because it can be deceiving. So this is about a 4 pound piece or a 2 kilo piece of pork. But yeah, anything just cooked to suit. So if you're only going to be having a couple of meals out of this, I usually like to vac pack it down and save it for later. But if you're only going to have 1 or 2 meals out of this, I just recommend cutting it in half and only using a kilo or about 2 pound section. So what I'm going to do here is run that all the way over here. And as I sort of come around here, so you don't have to do too many knots, I'm going to do, get that nice and tight. And then just going to slowly wrap that around with a gap of about, 2 centimeters or 3/4 of an inch. And then you can just sort of roll it as you go. I find this is personally the easiest way to do it. It ends up, make sure that it's nice and tight and it's all going to hold together. And this is why I always recommend starting with more twine than you think. I've started with about 3 meters worth of twine here. Doesn't sound or sounds like too much, but obviously if you're winding up a big bit of pork and you're doing it in small increments, this can quite easily get eaten up, so you don't end up with enough string. Let's have a look, or enough twine, so to speak. Push this back in. And what I'll do is I haven't pulled that tag out. Usually I leave myself a bit of a tag there as well, so I can tie that up. As you can probably hear in the background, we've got the gas going. So don't forget, at the start, leave a bit of a tag as well. So that should be nice. They'll hold together quite nicely. You can adjust it a bit if you need to. Sort of push those out just to make sure she goes from tip to tail. It's nice and even. That should, if you have a look at that, that should come up really nice. Beautiful. Alrighty, we'll pop her in now. Alrighty guys, so I've brought it to the boil, and then what I'm going to do now I had to trim a bit of this pork off, it wasn't going to quite fit in here. Just pop that in. Okay,
You just want to make sure that that's completely covered, so you might want to chuck a bit more water in there. And then you just pop a lid on and let it simmer. I'll show you. Just want to simmer, and you simmer it for about 2 hours, 1.5 to 2 hours, depending on how you like it. Just remember, if you cook it too long, it can be hard to slice and it can break apart a bit too easily. So try 1.5 hours to start off with, maybe go to 2 on bigger bits of pork belly. And we'll come back, we're going to top some more water up with that, but we'll come back after about 2 hours. Alrighty guys, so we're going to come back and make my little chili oil that we've got. So we start off with 100 mils of oil. Now I'm using peanut here, but in reality you probably should be using something that hasn't got as much flavour. And then what I'm going to do is add 2 tablespoons of garlic. And about a tablespoon of ginger. I'm going to bring that up to the to temperature. Get that oil hot, get that sizzling a little bit. Just get that mix through. Okay. Just want to cook that through a tiny bit just to release some of the flavours and aromas. Use your nose, you can generally tell straight away as soon as it's starting to cook a bit. You can use your eyes as well and see that it's simmering. Have a look in the back there, you can actually see the tonkotsu broth reducing and melding all together. Okay, so you can start to see that bubble now. So to that, see, you can hear it as well. To that I'm going to add 25 ml of mirin. Give that a stir. 25 ml of sake. Okay, now just going to reduce the heat a bit. Okay, and now I'm going to add 50 grams of chili powder. Now this is a Japanese brand. You don't have to go that as far as I have in getting it. That's right, you might want to take that off the heat while this cooks. Now just remember as well guys, be very careful because this can get right up your nostrils and bring a tear to your eye. And so what we're going to do now is going to add some, turn the heat off now, dorban or bean curd chili. This isn't necessary, just adds a bit more depth of flavour. Just mix that through. Now taking that off the heat, now what I'm going to do is going to add some sesame oil. Now you don't want to add this while it's hot because what you'll notice with sesame oil is that once it's been heated, it loses its sesame flavour. So although a tablespoon sounds like a lot, it really isn't in the scheme of things. Now to store this, you might want to cover it with a bit more oil. This is mainly for use on the day. But this will store away, and there's probably a fair bit to store away. If you have a look at that, guys. Oh, I wish you could smell this. That's so nice. Yeah. Okay. So what we can do as well is you might want to store this, just add some oil over the top so she doesn't go off, and that you can use it across multiple times. You see that, guys? Okay, so that's what I add. You can either add it to the blend, to the mix when you've plating up, and add it to the bottom of the bowl before you pour in your tonkotsu broth. But I like to put it on top and mix it through manually, so I get a mix of flavors of the tonkotsu broth, and then you get a little bit of the chili here and there. Okay, cool. We'll come back shortly and I'll show you the next step. Alrighty guys, so at about the hour and a half mark. Yeah, it's hard to see. Okay, now I'm going to pull that out and I'll rest that for about a half an hour. Okay, so let's have a look at that. See that? Okay. Now you can test to see if it jiggles. That's one way of telling she's done. But yeah, play around with 1.5 hours simmered first. You don't want to boil it. And then you probably want to play around. If it's not quite as tender as you like it, maybe go closer to 2 hours. But start with 1.5 hours to begin with. Then what we're going to do, we're going to turn that up to a rapid boil. And so you can see there, she's starting to get that creamy look about her. As you cook it more and more, the fat's coming out of the trotters and that's already there from the pork belly. That will actually start to emulsify and go from that white opaque sort of color to that really creamy look that you get with a good tonkotsu. Okay. Alrighty guys, so we've had our braising or glazing liquid cooled. We're going to we let this cool down a fair bit as well. I'm going to plonk this in there. And then I'm going to pour this liquid on top. An hour is enough. 2 hours is better. Overnight's even better. But that'll be fine just like that. Now what you can do, not quite close it up the whole way, squeeze some air out of that. You can pop it underwater and do all sorts of stuff like that as if you're going to be sous videing it. But I'm not going to bother, I'm just going to stick it in the fridge straight like that. Alrighty guys, 150 mils of dashi. Okay. 35 grams of salt. Give that a bit of a swirl, you want that to dissolve. Okay. 80 mils of light soy. Make sure it's light soy. 80 mils of mirin. This is for our tare. 40 mils of sake. About 30 grams, 6 to 8 cloves of garlic, depending on how much garlic you like or how big the garlic pieces are. You might want to double it if you really like garlic. And then I'm going to add 30 grams of sesame seeds. Now if you see these sesame seeds, I've got some high quality Japanese ones. You don't have to use those, but these I find they've been toasted, gives them much better flavour. And we'll give that a bit of a stir. Alrighty, we're back. Okay, so we're going to pull this back fat out now. It's been in there for a couple of hours, you can see. Looking at it for it to be a bit jelly-like. And something I forgot to tell you guys is, although I've got a thermometer, if you're trying to tell whether the pork belly is done, just simply, if you pierce the meat, so there's meat there, there's a lot of fat there, but if you pierce the meat with a skewer, you can tell how tender it is, aka done by just using a satay skewer or something similar. And that's a great way for telling the pork belly's done, just like you would for the guys that follow me in barbecue stuff, for brisket, you know, pork belly, anything that you want sort of melting in your mouth, falling apart. The best way to tell something's done is to use tenderness as the final test. So use things like a skewer, satay stick, you know, anything like that will work wonders. And so what we're going to do here, we're taking out the back fat, and then I'm actually going to chop that up into little smaller bits, and then vac seal that. And so once I vac seal that, I can use that for adding to my ramen at other points in time, like when I'm actually preparing it. So I'll just give you a quick look of the broth to see where we're at. Okay, so let's see how nice and creamy white that is. Okay, so I'm going to reduce it a little bit further, and then we're going to take some of the reduced thickened broth out. Okay, we'll come back again and I'll show you the next step. Look at that bubbling away in there. About the 4-hour mark. See how creamy that is. Cool. Alrighty guys, we're back. Okay, so I don't know, it's hard to see. I haven't got my own cameraman. If you can see in there, like the bones are starting to poke out, and so you can actually see she's thickened up quite a bit. Now you can reduce that a little bit more, and I'd be inclined to reduce that probably a little bit more before I take some out, but I'm going to take some out now anyway. So I'll just put this back. So what I'll do, you just want the soup to thicken. Take about 600 ml out. You see that, guys? Looks a bit green in this lighting. That's just the lighting, guys. If you have a look at that, see how it's nice and thick? That's what you're looking for. Take another couple of scoops out of that now. And then what I'll do, now you want to pop that in the fridge straight away and cover it while you've got it in the fridge. Okay, so usually what I'd actually do, if I can show you, I'd actually probably more likely be taking some stock out when it sort of gets, sort of uncovers the bones by about that much. So a bit less, because it's going to be really thick and rich by then. You can see all the fat and skin and all that's breaking down. Okay, so what we're going to do is top this up with water now. Again, you want to sort of just cover the bones now at this stage, and then reduce that again and do the exact same thing again. By that stage, this should have broken down a fair bit, and so that'll be probably around the 6 hour point. So you don't need to go any further. You can if you want, but 6 hours is usually fine, I find. So we're going to fill that up again. We're going to go again. Cool, we'll come back then. Alrighty guys, we're going to pop it on the smoker now. You don't have to do it on the smoker, you can just, on the oven's fine, or in the oven's fine. Now what I'm going to do, now it's up to you whether you reduce this stock at all. I'm just going to baste it every so often, just to get that little bit extra flavour. Hopefully get that to act like a glaze. Okay, and we'll do that every 15 minutes on a low temperature. Alrighty guys, let's glaze this again. Be quite liberal with it. And you can, I'm not sure if I mentioned this in the previous shot, you can reduce the sauce if you'd like, just to make it a bit easier to stick. I find it stays on a bit better when it's cold. I'll come back again shortly. Alrighty guys, we're going to slice this up now. Now I've taken a bit of that string off. Have a look at that. Okay. And so we're just going to cut slices, probably about, what's that? about 10 mil thick. See that sort of thickness? And then we're just going to fry that in the pan. A couple of those should do nicely. Oh, look at that. Wish everyone could smell that. Bubble away. So you want to have that rapid boil. Okay, you see that? You want it bubbling away like that. That's what's going to emulsify all the fat into the broth and create that nice creamy colour and texture. It smells so good. Just remember to keep stirring it, guys, because yeah, it will stick to the bottom, and then when that browns on the bottom, that can make things your broth brown as well. So don't forget to stir. So that's 6 hours now, guys. That's enough for me. I'm going to strain that off. And that's me done. You can go longer if you want. I find 6 hours is plenty. It's plenty porky and plenty creamy, and you got all that collagen that's broken down into gelatin. It's beautiful. Beautiful, thick, creamy. And that's probably a touch too thick for me, but you can easily thin that out with a bit of water or with your tare, whatever you'd like to do. Alrighty guys, so what I'm going to add to this, about a tablespoon of some garlic lard that I made up. Okay, now here comes the tare. I usually like to put about 60 mils, which is about 3 to 4 tablespoons. Okay. Adjust that to flavour, obviously. I'm going to stick some extra chopped up back fat in there. Okay. Now, here we go. Okay. Now what you can do, excuse me guys, is give the ramen a bit of a whisk to give you that bubbly look. Now you can use a stick blender if you want. Let's see how to get that together. And just remember, I preheat the bowl with this as well. So I'm going to put about 300 mils of soup in. One, two, three, might go one more for good luck. Okay, now to put in my noodles, just going to quickly blanch them again. time to garnish that. Pop our meat in. So what I always do is I'll start with my mushrooms first. Okay, let's go from over here. Sorry if you can't see that from that direction. I'll try to do it. I'll spin the bowl around in a moment. Okay. We have a taste test. Oh my goodness, that's incredible. Some more mushrooms there. I like a lot of, oh, by the way, these are called wood ear mushrooms for those playing at home. Okay, these are my fave. And then what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna grab my meat. Okay, now. Sear this off in a pan, just to heat her up, add some colour, add a bit of caramelisation and flavour. Now the other thing you can do is, hang on, here comes the onions. The other thing you can do is add a bit of that glaze that we made when you're searing it, just watch it doesn't burn. Okay, some onions there. I'm gonna pop some of that chili that I made as well. Okay, and then pop my eggs on there as well. Oh, there we go. There we go. Now have a look at that. Oh, excuse me, look at that. That is absolutely glorious. All right, let's eat it. Oh my goodness. Oh, it's so good. Look at how juicy that pork is. Porky broth, chili, those eggs. Oh my goodness, look at that. So good.